Throw then to Torquay. The seconds and the minutes rapidly going against them. Stab through, and is it in? It's there! My goodness, they've got level, and the crowd is swarming on the field, and I've never seen excitement of this sort at a football match before. The whole arena is going absolutely crazy.
So this is the latest instalment of the Torquay United Oral History Project, and I'm joined here today in the Cove at Plainmoor, my fellow inquisitor John Gibbes, Danni Wyatt and Lee Hayward. Throughout the recording you may hear a little bit of background noise. It's about 35 degrees in here, honestly. I'm about a stone lighter than I was when I started. So we've got a fan on, so that's one thing. And the other thing is there's a rather splendid children's football festival going on the pitch. So goals are being celebrated quite loudly. You might hear a little bit of that. So Lee, 2026, I'm reliably informed, marks the 50th anniversary of the foundation of the Devon Women's Football League. You also became, I believe, the first woman to referee in a South Devon Men's League game. And also, really interesting for our audience, I think, that it was the 50th anniversary of the formation of Torquay Ladies FC, as they were then called. So, Lee, if I could maybe start with you, how did your football begin?
It started with the World Cup in 1966. Before that, I hated it. They took off my beloved man from Uncle to show a Liverpool European Cup final one Thursday. But there was nothing else to watch in '66. You know, it was football or nothing. So that's kind of where it started. And then we started playing. There were a few of us at school started playing. Came to this esteemed ground for the first time in 1968 and watched Torquay United beat Grimsby 3-0.
Not a bad start.
Absolutely.
So, talk us through your career. I mean, it's been long and distinguished, really, hasn't it? You've played, you've whistled, you've administrated.
Yes, I started off when I really wanted to get into it. I started by becoming a referee, and when I qualified as a referee, I was not allowed to referee men's games. I could referee boys' games, or I could referee women's games. Neither of which I wanted to do. But at the end of the 75-6 season, the Equal Opportunities Act had come in. So in 1976, they were forced really to consider me for a South Devon League place, and I did 3 games. But unfortunately, or probably fortunately for South Devon League teams, the Women's League started at the same time. And if I was refereeing on a Saturday and playing on a Sunday and working Monday to Friday, there was no time just to chill out and get drunk. So I gave up the refereeing because I wasn't that fussed about it, really, and started playing instead.
I suppose you'd have been the first female referee that a lot of the lads you refereed would have come across. Was that difficult?
Yes and no, depends which quarter you're standing in. I was the first woman to register as a referee in Devon. Whether I was the first to qualify or not, I doubt. I think there were probably people that did women's five-a-side games or something along those lines that they probably qualified before I did, but nobody actually registered as a referee. Some people were very good, and others were taking the bread out of the male referees' mouths. And, okay, but I really, being of sound mind and aged 21, I decided I would rather play than referee. So that was what I ended up doing, and the refereeing quietly got knocked on the head. I always promised myself that I would go back to refereeing when I stopped playing. I was 61 when I stopped playing, so it just didn't seem worth it. And I mean, technically, I'm still doing walking football, so I haven't retired yet.
No need to, is there?
No.
What position did you play?
Full-back when I was young and quick, and then sort of 20 years and £20 later I'd come into the middle, so I was a centre half. And occasionally, I spent the first season in goal because nobody else would do it. And as I got older, I thought that standing still was probably more to my liking. So I ended my career mostly in goal.
So you say 1976, you first woman to referee South Devon League game, and the Devon League started.
Yep.
We needed a team to play in the Devon League, so tell us about the team that was founded.
Right. I knew quite a few people in football anyway because I've been following the bus team, the Devon General team. There was a couple of people that I knew in that, and I had been running the line for them on occasions when I could not get out of it. And I was kind of inveigled into going for the referee qualification. It was a bet, I think, more than anything, or a dare. There was a woman at work who had been one of the ones pushing me to go for this qualification. Her and a friend that she knew socially, the three of us got together and we did all of the hard work, getting in touch with the newspapers and getting articles, because obviously it fell to me because I'd been hunted down like a dog by the likes of Bob Hill on the Hayward Express when I qualified as a referee. So I thought, well, there's no point in not using them. If they're in my sphere of vision, then I might as well use them as well. So we gathered together. There was about 18 women, most of whom had never played football, and they might have kicked around on the netball court for about 5 minutes before the games teacher came out and had a go. But they'd never really played football before, and we were lucky. And again, I don't know whether the name Brian Helmore rings bells around here anymore, but he was very big with the Pioneer League for the boys, and obviously Diane, who was one of the triumvirate, was his daughter, and he offered to managers, coaches, trainers, and this sort of thing, and he was brilliant. And also along the way we picked up Wayne Drake, who was a good footballer locally. And Gampton and Stoke, they the three teams that people would roll around. And he brought his friend Kevin Bond, and they were absolutely fab. I mean, I don't know if they were laughing at us behind our back, but to our faces they were absolutely brilliant. And they gave us some magnificent tips on sort of beginners how to play football, really. So we went out and had off. We didn't have a pitch. We couldn't secure a pitch. We were begging pitches wherever we could. The guy that was secretary at Brixham United in the first season, he was also a referee. So I just phoned up and asked him on the off chance. So we had our first game at Wall Park, which is quite a nice place to start. Lost 14-0. And then the second game, we won 15-0, which was pretty good. The first season was a bit hit and miss because we were just gelling together as a team, and by the end of the season the team was greater than the sum of its parts because there were some very so-so footballers in there and one or two really good ones, but just we gelled as a team and we were better when we were playing together. So this was the Devon, the first iteration, I suppose, of the Devon League. And by the end of the second, I think it was the second season, might have been the third, we'd done the double. That we'd improved that much, that we had done the double. It didn't do any harm that we had Sarah Pollard, whose name you will have read in the book, the Irrepressible Women book. She played once for England, didn't like the setup because it was a bit cliquey, and she declined to go again. But in those days, you had to get yourself to the training under your own steam. There was no expenses paid or anything like that. And in fact, she had to wait until about 2018 before she got her cap, which is pretty much 40 years after she played for it.
Was it in Denmark or something she played, I think?
Yes, it was. Sorry. Bob Hill, sorry, I keep veering off on weird stories. Bob Hill at the Hayward Express, lovely bloke, and when I used to phone him up, whenever you said something to him, he would repeat it back to you twice. And it's sort of, oh yes, that's marvellous, and it's just a habit he had. And he said, he said, where were they playing? And I said, well, in Copenhagen, because that was where she played. And he said, wonderful, wonderful. And I don't think it was an arch comment. I just think it was something that he said. And I'm falling about laughing on the other end of the phone. Bless her. I think you might be right. Yeah, so she played, she scored a goal for England. So she is, as far as I know, the only Paynton-born woman that's played for England, even up to today. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Danni, I'm sure Torquay fans will be delighted to see you with your plaster and your boot off. So you're making your recovery from your foot operation.
Yeah.
That's great. So same question to you really that I asked Lee. How did, I know you've always been a Torquay fan, but how did playing the game start for you?
It started at school, primary school. I had an amazing headmaster called Mr. Woodhouse, who I know many girls will. He's still around actually. I spoke to him recently. Many girls will remember he got them into football as well. So again, even when I was young, there wasn't that many opportunities for young girls to be playing football, and actually people didn't really think that they should be, but Mr. Woodhouse did. He organised a school team, and we were really quite good. We were one of the good school teams, and I fell in love with it, and he brought me here to play on Plainmoor, which again opened my eyes up to Torquay. So didn't actually play competitively outside of school until I was 18, 19 years old, so kind of went throughout my teens trying to fit in, and playing football I wouldn't have fit in, so I didn't, unfortunately. But I got to an age where I really wanted to play. I checked in the Hayward Express, and Plainmoor ladies were training up on Quinto Road, and I lived on Warburg Road, just opposite the ground. So I went to JJB Sports, bought some football boots with my pocket money, and walked up on a Saturday morning. Met a lovely family, the Quaintances. Russell Quaintance was the manager at the time, and I just started training with them. I didn't even tell my parents actually. I was just walking up on Saturday mornings to go and play football, and I loved it. I was very young and just wanted to be involved in something. Fell in love. I've gone backwards a bit there. So I was playing at Plainmoor, and Aunt Roach contacted me, who had just formed Torquay United Ladies at the time, and they had the badge, they had the Torquay badge, and they were in their first season, and I joined right at the very end of it, and I haven't looked back really. So that's where it started for me, and I'm still going, trying anyway.
You absolutely are. Were you always a goal scorer?
I've always been a forward. Yeah, when I first started, I was a winger. I was a lot quicker back then. Very fast. Russell used to put me on the wing, and I used to take everyone on. But I'd always had a bit of composure in front of goal, so it kind of ended up being a number 9, and I was a number 9 for Torquay for years after Laura Goff retired from football, and she was one of Devon's biggest goal scorers. She was incredible. So I kind of looked up to her and tried to take on that challenge. Never quite scored as many goals as Laura Goff, but then moved into kind of a number 10 role as well, so I've always flitted in between the two, but I'll play wherever they want me, wherever I can be good at.
Just going back a little bit, you said about sort of participation dropping off through the teens. Is that still an issue, do you think?
Not now. I think back when was this? This must be when I was... So I lived in Scotland when I was younger. Year 5, year 6, moved to Scotland, wasn't much football there. Came back to start secondary school here, not much football going on, and again that's why I wanted to kind of fit in more than anything. I believe Plainmoor were playing at the time, because I think they've been going a long time. Leah, I don't know if you know how long they've been going for.
They were a girls' side before they formed the seniors. They needed somewhere for the girls as they were growing up.
Of course,
they needed an outlet, so they formed the women's side after that.
Yeah, okay. So, I think that they were around playing girls' football, but it did just... It dropped off for me, but I can't see that happening now because there's opportunities, there's places to go, you know. There's a lot more teams now than there ever was when I was younger, and when Lee was as well.
There was nothing when I was playing. It was, but at least in sort of over the years, primary school age, they started to have girls' teams as part of their school outlet. But when they got to senior school, there wasn't very much going on really, was there? They were reliant on outside clubs, normal clubs, as opposed to school teams. I mean, even the girls' grammar school, you would have thought a dedicated girls' school would have a team, but no, they didn't. And it's very much the same even these days. And with rugby as well, the same thing with rugby. I did meet a girl there about 2 or 3 years ago that was desperate to form a rugby team, and she was getting not an awful lot of help from the staff at all.
Oh, in the schools?
Within the school. So there might still be a little bit of drop-off in the teenage years. But at least they can see that they've got somewhere to go now.
Outside of school, yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard when you're a teen and you just want to fit in, but nobody else is playing football, so why should you?
Yeah.
It's hard being a teenager anyway, so yeah, but I was glad to go back as I got older. It's the best decision I made, just go back onto the pitch.
It's a little bit, if you can't see it, you're not going to be it, isn't it, really? And I think obviously the publicity the women's game's getting there must help with that. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's important my dream is for people not to ever be surprised that a girl plays football. It just should be the norm. You know, you see little boys and you expect that they love and play football, and I want people to think the same for young girls as well. So, I think if you can see it, you can be it, you can do it, and that's important to be visible to the young people growing up.
That's what we have with the league. When we reformed a Devon league in 1996, because the original 1976 Devon league, the women's FA that ran women's football went bankrupt, and I rather suspect, I might be doing them a disservice, but I doubt it, but the Blazers at Lancaster Gate, as it was then, they're probably rubbing their hands with glee. Oh, we've got rid of the monstrous regiment of women. But then there were so many women playing football that the county FA took it over, and women used to affiliate direct to the women's FA, and now women's teams from then, which was probably about 1980, there or thereabouts, affiliated to the county that they were playing in. And somebody at Lancaster Gate, in their wisdom, thought that it was actually a great idea to divide the country, England and Wales, into 8 regions, which was your baseline for playing football, which meant that in the southwest, which included Wales, believe it or not, you could be based in Penzance and you'd have to go to Swansea to play a game of league football, which was essentially men's pub football level on a Sunday. And no blokes team would have won that, it would have been local or nothing, mate. And in the end, a guy called John Asher, who you will have read about at Exeter Rangers, they, off their own back, they formed a Devon and Exeter League to make it a bit more accessible. Because, again, you've got the problem with boys' football attracts a lot of sponsorship, whereas girls' football, back in the day, wasn't going anywhere. There was no real percentage in backing it. Whereas now, with the England women's team doing as well as they're doing and getting the publicity, and there being a professional league, businesses are seeing the point of actually coming in on the sponsorship side and making lengthy travel that bit easier. But it was a nightmare. So it wasn't just the FA Cup where you've got Torquay United drawn away to Carterton or Newbury and expected to make the trip. Whereas now it is a lot more localised because there are more teams, but it's partly on the back of the fact that it's got a higher profile. The game itself has got a higher profile, and it means that local teams can play locally. Sorry, I nearly veered off into another accent then. This is a local team.
Danni, I wanted to just bring us bang up to date, really. It's been a fantastic season for the women. Treble winners.
Yeah, insane. Yeah.
And tell us about how that's going to affect things going forward? More travelling, promotion?
Yeah,
How
I
do you see
mean,
it?
yeah, my best season was last time we did this. Last time we won, not the treble obviously, but last time we won the regional prem and went into the Women's National League for the first time. That was, what was that, 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, what an experience to go and play National League football. Big jump, big step. Last time we went, we thought a bit naive, I think. Took the step but didn't quite make the jump. We were good and we were only relegated by 1 point, and we had to, I think, beat Southampton on the final day, and we drew, which sent us crashing back down into the regional prem. And we knew then that all we needed to do was just get back up again, and get it right the second time. We'd learn from our mistakes, kind of thing. So we came second the next time we tried. And then really took it seriously this year, brought Ryan in and Ryan's team in and trusted them. And we brought players in that varied in experience, that varied in age, and we switched things up. We took things to the next level professionally. We linked with the club. We leaned on the club for support. We trained twice a week. We've always only ever trained once a week. This season we trained twice a week. Yeah, and not much has changed. It still feels the same Torquay United I've always known. We just played better, and we were prepared, and we had this capability behind us that we could go and win games, and we didn't always play well. We're trailing towards the end of the season. I think pressure can get to you a little bit, and going for the treble, and also we had to not get complacent as well, because we were travelling to games and we were winning, we were coming away like it was, it was easy, wasn't it? But we can't think like that, and we always kind of had to remind ourselves of that. But it's been a hell of a season. I haven't played a single minute because of my foot, but I've been there every step of the way, supporting Ryan, supporting the rebuild of the team, getting the right players in. And you can't just go and get good players in. It doesn't work like that. You have to get people that fit into the squad, people that understand Torquay, the right attitude. So it's not just as simple as ringing up players and saying, come on over, because they're not paid either. So they have to enjoy it. They have to enjoy the environment. We have to give them something to make them stay. So, pulling players like Beth Everson, who's played from a very good level of football, is a very good player. It's just one player of the season. Absolutely enjoyed her time with Torquay this year, a level below what she's used to, but we made it good for her and players alike. So we take these good players into the National League now and recruit further. I know Ryan's got his list of players he wants, and he's constantly talking to me about them, what they're doing, who's coming, who's still chasing. We take another step again into a more professional era of Torquay United. Hopefully we can stay up this time.
Yeah, I mean, as a complete newcomer to the women's game, my sort of observation of it is it's played in a very good spirit, but it's quite physical as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be.
That surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, and it's tough because I've played for Torquay for many years, and we've always been small. I don't know what it is. We've always been the smaller side. We've always gone up against teams that are much taller, much bigger, and you have to be physical, otherwise you're almost bullied off the ball. We've also had teams with Torquay that are too nice, and people have said we're too nice. Whenever we've come up against MAP, Marine Academy, they're always stronger than us, they're always more physical than us, and if we can find that, if we can bring that into the girls and get them to go out and fight, then we know we're technically better players. So just shoulders up, arms out, and go to battle.
You've got leaders there, haven't you? T captain, Connie Pengelly, who's an absolute handful up front, and of course the experience that Molly Taylor brings at the back.
Yes, yeah.
It's been a very, very impressive season. So, $1 million question: are you going to manage to stay up next year?
Absolutely. Yeah. We can't do it again, and it's vital. We keep hold of what we've got, and we just add to it. don't make the mistake we made last time of just thinking we don't need to add to it. It's a big jump, it's a big step. But looking at that league and looking at the teams that are in it, I think we've got a very good chance of impressing people and turning some heads at that level. And that's what we aim to do. We aim to kind of make a name for ourselves up there.
That's brilliant. What was the sort of highest level that you played at, Lee? I know you talked about winning stuff in your early days. Did that continue?
No, don't be ridiculous. No, I only ever really played. I played in when the FA carved it up into regions and we were on the road constantly. I suppose you would say that was a higher level, but equally it was still the base level. And I suspect that there was some form of formalised pathway, a word which I really don't like very much, but it was there was a point to winning a league, whereas when I started out, you won the league, great, let's win it again next year, and you could move forward from the county league to what was the Western League, but that was for the big girls. That was for the likes of Plymouth Pilgrims, as they were, or Exeter City. There wasn't very much higher level football within Devon. You had to be really, really committed to want to spend the entire day travelling to somewhere like Swindon or Bournemouth or Cheltenham, somewhere like that, in order to get that level of football. And people say I should be committed all of the time, obviously, but I was never that committed as regards football. So I was just happy to play, because I'd never been able to play. There was my father, who was not my favourite person, physically locked me in the house one Sunday morning when I was about 14 or 15, and the girls from the school that were Torquay United fans, and we'd come together as a playing team. We were going to play, I think they were Shippey Athletic, which was a men's team, obviously, all against all of the rules and everything, but I was locked in the house. So things have moved on. You ever been locked in the house to stop you playing football? No. So those were the days. No, it's I never really played at a higher level. Exeter Rangers was probably the best team that I played with.
Yeah.
I think the name Torquay United as a women's team first hit the news about 1990, around the time Mike Bateson became chairman.
It was about then.
About?
Yeah, I played. The first game we played was actually against Bristol City, and look where they are now. At Playmore, we were allowed to play on the pitch for a few games, and then it was off you go, back again. But at least they'd shown willing and at Torquay United and let us play on the Playmore pitch itself, which was kind of nice for those days. Very generous, really. But that was when it started. It sort of, I think I've had more comebacks than Frank Sinatra over the years, and I kept drifting out of football and drifting back in again when whatever injury I had settled down enough for me to think, yeah, I could do this again. And by the time I'd got back in, they had fallen out big time at Torquay United. Not with Mike Bateson, I don't think. I can't remember the guy's name, and I wouldn't mention it, just in case he's still alive. But he was to do with the youth setup, and we used to have to travel all over the place. So we had an agreement that we would use the Torquay United minibus, and we turned up one day to go to somewhere like Swindon or something like that, and the minibus was nowhere to be found because this guy had put all of these 11-year-olds into and taken them up to King George V up at Watcombe. So we got into massive trouble with the league because we didn't fulfil a fixture because we couldn't get there. But yes, but after that was when it started doing the rounds and.
So you went out to Newton, played at Coach Road and became.
Yeah, I was not there then.
Lee, you said that your early football was really helped by the coaching, but I guess there's been quite a lot of changes in that over the years.
Yes, they were glorious amateurs. Really, they just they played the game for the love of it mostly. But they didn't have these sort of dreadful coaching books that came out from the FA that were sometimes they were more hindrance than help, I suppose. If you just want to, they take the joy out of playing football, and it's you must do this, you must do that, and it has changed. I mean, there is more, a lot more organised coaching, but I think it's more geared towards playing the game, partly for the love of it and partly for the idea of working your way up through the greasy pole. But when I started, there was nothing like that at all. It was just, the most organised coach we ever had was Rod Hawker, and he came down. He had been coaching with the England women's side when it was based at Frome, effectively, because the England manager was also the Frome town manager, and his daughter was the centre forward for them and England. But that was the most organised coaching. I mean, he was very good, but Rod's a people person anyway, and he sort of geared it towards the abilities of the people that he was coaching. He wasn't expecting everybody to attain a certain level. He was making sure that the ones that didn't know even how to kick a ball learnt how to kick a ball. So he was able to sort of make it personalised in a lot of ways. But it's moved on, and there's an awful lot of good about it moving on. But sometimes I look at it and I think, oh, you've been coached, haven't you?
I think Danny might be interested to hear from you really about the changes that you've seen even in your short career, because you're still a youngster, obviously.
I thought you were still talking to me for a minute.
Yeah, I remember back when I can't remember what year it was. It must have been 2015-16. It was the year Kev Nicholson was in charge here. That's 15. Yeah. Kev used to come and take our training, so he would manage the men, and he would come and take the women's training, and he was brilliant. He was a brilliant coach. He would also send the players to our sessions to coach us as well, and they weren't really coaches. They were professional footballers, but they weren't coaches, but they were great. Learnt the most from Ben Gehring. He would put on some good sessions. Sam Chaney would come and coach us. Angus MacDonald was a great coach to us. But we didn't really have somebody there with a badge, with an FA badge, kind of coaching us. But over the years, that's changed a lot. Ryan Perks is A licence, the same as Jimmy Ball, and he knows his stuff. And you start to see that a lot more in the women's game. Hopefully that is now trickling down through the youth systems and into the girls' teams, because I think it's difficult when they're children, because you just want them to have fun and love the game, because if they don't, they end up stopping playing it. So it's striking that balance I mean, I don't know how to teach youth football, but I can imagine that is striking a balance of making sure they enjoy it but teach them the rules. And you can see the kids that have got the natural talent, and you're just guiding them through the game, really, aren't you? But then when you get to an adult and you're playing to formations and you're playing these different tactics and stuff, your coach there in front of you he sets the game, as Ryan does. He teaches us and he shows us how to play, and we have to go out there and execute the plan. But go back 10 years, I don't really think there was a plan. I think who was better, and that was it. But yeah. Just trying to think if there's anybody else involved.
You can see what your team are trying to do. I mean, it'll go square across the back a couple of times, but then it's sort of hit the wingers quite early, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we kind of try to play wide. We've got some amazing players out in the channels. But when we don't have that, so say we played Gloucester here not so long ago, and we were out without Beth. So we had a different plan, because we couldn't give the ball to Beth and allow Beth and her pace to kind of outdo what was in front of her. We had to kind of play back into the middle to come back out again, and I thought the girls played really well. So there's a lot more thought, I think, going into the game. We used to have Joby Treffett used to be our analyst, and we used to get analysis of the games beforehand. We've kind of stepped away from that now. From our opponent, we've not really done a lot of that this season, but we're about to step back into that, going into the National League. We realise we're going to have to start studying our opponents again and seeing how to beat them. So yeah, there's better coaches these days in the women's game, which helps. And for me, Emma Hayes has completely transformed the women's game, and she's still building that and trying to make the world see women's football through the female lens and stop copying the men's game, because it's not the men's game, it's the women's game. So it's that comparison piece where people tend to compare them, and for me, they've never been comparable. I love them just the same, but see them as two completely different games.
And the FA, I think, are considering bringing in some sort of Rooney rule, aren't they? In terms of every club's got to be either coached by a woman or the assistant has to be female.
Yeah, there must be a woman in the setup. So yeah, you're right, either managing the team, assistant manager, but I think they've only done it at a certain level for now, but I can see them trickling that down through the entire FA. So we've just won the Devon Cup.
Yep.
And I was sat on the bus, we were coming back from somewhere, and I picked it up and I spun it round, and it says Lee Hayward on it. So tell us about that. How's your name on that cup?
Okay. Well, the County FA have had county cups at 3 distinct levels for men for decades, and then there were youth cups that they were adding in, but there were no cups for the women at all. And there weren't many teams in Devon in the sort of early 90s, and they kept saying, oh, there's got to be 8 teams in it for it to be viable, and I'm saying, why?
Yeah.
So I had been elected as a Devon FA councillor, and it was one of the last things that I did, that I bought a cup, and I had it engraved, and I said, this is for the women's, because there was then only ever going to be one women's cup competed for.
Yeah.
And you knew that Plymouth Argyle were going to win it
Or Exeter
every year.
City, yeah.
Or Exeter City,
Yeah.
yeah. I think they went out to Elmore for a while, but they were Exeter City in all but name. So I got the cup, and they played their first, I think it was in 95, 96, was the first year it was competed for. And that's why my name is on it, because...
And that's still the cup that we've got now. It's a beautiful trophy.
No,
Was it remade?
No, how are we with slander around here? Plymouth Argyle won it one year, and they were taking it out to schools and various different institutions, and I am going to do the air quotes, lost it somewhere along the line. And I mean, it wasn't the Ashes, it was
it's a big cup,
about the size as that one.
Yeah.
So either it's sitting on somebody's mantelpiece or it's been melted down. It's not in the cabinet at Home Park, because I have looked a couple of times, just in case. But obviously they had to pay up, and I had to get a new one. But the first one was lovely. It really. If you think that one's nice,
it's nice. Yeah.
The original one was. I don't often do girly.
Yeah.
But it was a proper girly cup. It had no square corners on it.
Yeah.
Even the handles were beautiful.
Nice.
And it looked like a heart.
It's elegant.
It was. Yeah, it was. All silver, no bits of marble or anything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But in effect, it's still the same cup. It's got my name engraved on it again, because the original one disappeared, shall we say?
Well, it's in the trophy case here at
Good.
Playmore now. So
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear it. I wish I could have won it for Torquay, but unfortunately, I was too old by the time it came on board.
No, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant story.
But it was the Women's League, the later Devon Women's League, came on the back of that, because there was, I don't know, I think there might have been about half a dozen teams in the end that actually competed the cup, and I had to fight tooth and nail with the county FA to get a women's league started, because I said there's loads of women's teams, they're looking for somewhere to play, or leave it for another 12 months, leave it. And I said what we've said here today, build it and they will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the end we started the first season with 11 teams. Didn't finish with 11 teams because a couple of them were terribly naive and a bit ambitious. But it's been going ever since. It's still
and that's
going.
the Devon County League that lives
still,
now.
That's still going now. And with Keith sitting in I think Rod Hawker's the chair at the moment. I'm not too sure. I've kind of fallen out of football.
Yeah, I think
It's the
he
cup
is.
final tomorrow night.
Yes, yeah.
So-
And there's teams, Plainmoor are in it.
Yes.
Still, Plainmoor ladies are still there.
There's Painton
Painton
Villa.
Villa, they're doing well. They're newly formed.
Yes.
Probably newly reformed, are they, Painton Villa?
I don't know. They did have 2 teams at one time. I think one team
Yeah.
went by the by, but I mean, there's teams in the area because there's a Timoth team again.
Yes, Timoth ladies, my friend runs that.
Sheldon,
Sheldon, yeah.
What about Stoke? Are they,
Stoke still in that,
or are they?
they're the league above. That's still the Devon League though, isn't it? There's 2.
There's 2
Are there 2?
divisions.
Yeah.
Well, 3 divisions, but 2 levels.
Yes, Timoth are in the one above. And then you've got some Plymouth sides, so you've got Signal Box, who we played in that Devon Cup final.
Yeah, you did do quite well against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. I mean, there are teams in Exeter, and I'm assuming Budley,
Tedburn,
Stroke
St
Exmouth.
Mary.
I think
Remember
Tedburn
playing
might
them?
have gone by the by.
They've gone, have they?
Yeah,
Alfington are still around.
yeah, I think so. And I mean, there's teams in North Devon. There's quite a lot more teams in North Devon, Braunton and Bideford, and
Yes, yeah. Played against them, yeah.
there's teams in deepest Dartmoor, isn't there as well? Halwell, is it Halwell?
Yeah, Howell, yeah.
Yeah, Oakhampton have had a team, but I don't know if they're going at the moment.
So there are
But it's
still
the
old
same
teams
league.
still going,
Yeah,
and there are now newly forming teams
I mean,
coming into these leagues.
for a long time, Exeter Rangers was the longest running independent and actually the longest running women's team, and they became Exeter and Tedburn.
Yes,
But as has been quite common with women's football, when the person who's been running it for a long time steps aside, the interest goes and everybody just,
the players,
yeah.
they scatter, don't they?
Yeah.
And they go elsewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot.
Yes, it might be happening at Plymstock, because the guy that was running Plymstock for about 20 years, he's retired finally at the end of this season. So I'm not quite sure whether Plymstock are going to last the course or not. But so the Women's Cup that Torquay are now holding was the first step, and it was always the intention to get a league going, but we really did have to fight very hard. And they gave us a £500 grant that suddenly, somewhere along the line, had become a loan, and
Yeah.
they wanted it back. Fortunately, with my admin hat on,
Yeah.
I do take minutes. I take quite good minutes, I have to say, and I had actually mentioned in our inaugural meeting that we had been gifted £500 by the county, so we presented that to them, and we kept the £500 in the end.
Brilliant.
Which meant a bit more 30 years ago than
Yeah.
it would now, but yeah, bless them. Cut. I better not say any more about the county, had I?
You mentioned being a deaf and FA councillor.
Yes.
That was the last bastion of the male Blazers. wasn't it? How did
I think I
that
was
go
the.
down you becoming.
Well, not too bad actually, because I had a lot of friends. There were a lot of people that I'd been nice. Not, oh my God, that sounds bad. I've been nice to them. No, there was a lot of people. No, nothing like that. But there were a lot of people that I got on with, and I'd met through men's football, because I've been in men's football as well as women's football, and people had accepted me despite not having the normal accoutrements for a Devon FA councillor. Sort of people accepted me because it was me. If it had been somebody that they'd never met before, they might not have swallowed back their disgust quite so easily. But I didn't. There was obviously some. What are you doing here? Again, taking the bread out of our mouths. How dare you? But I did not encounter as much as others of my contemporaries. There was a couple of women on the South Devon League committee, and their experience of some of the councillors was vastly different to mine, and not in a good way. So I guess it's not necessarily about the actual fact that you're a woman in football. It's more that they don't know you, and they're more suspicious. Sorry, I'm talking to a load of blokes here saying, they think that this and they think that. But it is a male-female thing.
I think you were referee secretary for
I started as referee secretary. There was a chap who died, and I've forgotten his name. Bill he used to be a very good referee. Webster? That's the one, the teacher, Bill Webster, butterfly line. He died very suddenly, and I was headhunted. The only time in my entire life that I've ever been headhunted for anything. And I went in and finished off the season as referee's appointment secretary. Did a couple of years as that, and after a while you can't get people to come and do things anymore. So I ended up being the registrations with South Devon.
Lee, Danny, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been wonderful hearing you talk about your journey in the game, and I hope that it's of great interest to all our subscribers.